Hello everyone, Justin here, and this morning we're going to be drawing this owl, and I'll be using these Tombow Mono pencils, HB and I believe a 6B. So let's go ahead and get started, and I'm going to start with the eyes, and I'm just going to go ahead and start with the basic shapes. An oval for the right eye, and right next to it more of a circular shape for the left eye. And then let's rough out the shape of the head kind of roughly. And right about here, we'll go ahead and put like a beak. And it's just a triangular kind of shape. And right here then will be the eyes. So this like the outer part of the eye kind of filled with feathers that kind of surround the eye. And we can draw the pupils within the eye itself, and we should never forget, of course, our highlight. In this case, I'm going to put it in the upper right. And now let's go ahead and go towards the body and kind of rough out. Let's just go ahead and put a nice oval shape here for the body, and right about here we'll put his feet. That's on a branch, and it extends out here. I'm just continuing to rough out all the shapes, and then we can start doing the details. I'm just gonna kind of separate the groups of feathers here, and nothing has to be exact. We're just gonna kind of make things up here as we go along. Right here will probably be some of the bigger feathers, so I can start putting those in. And remember, if you don't have a reference picture, and even if you do, don't worry about trying to make it exactly like your reference picture. As I always say, I am using a reference picture, but I'm kind of just going by a general idea of where things are. I'm not drawing each feather exactly as I see it in the photo. I would show the photo, but no doubt it's copyright, so I'm just going by it in a rough way. So let's go ahead and start putting in detail. I'm just gonna go basically from upper left to right, and I'm gonna start with the eyes, the most important part of most any living creature drawing. So let's see, I'm gonna make the pupils a little bit darker using my 6B lead pencil. And I'll go back to my HB and start putting in some more detail. So I'm just using these short lines around the eye here to start creating shadows, darker tones, but I'm also using the lines in particular directions to show the form of the feathers that are around the eye. So here I'm kind of going upward, and I'll draw the lines a little bit longer. And then as we go here, they're going to start flattening out. And then as we go further down here, it'll start curving the other direction. So I'm just going to start adding more of those type of lines, kind of interrupted. And I don't want to do it all in one swoop. I can always make it darker simply by adding more lines. And out here we have this line to show a very smooth shape, but we need to break that up now. And I'm just adding more of these short lines, again following the direction of these initial lines that were around the eye. So these lines, these feathers here around the eye, will be a kind of a lighter color. And again, I'm just using short lines. And again, I'm going to break these smooth lines around the eye using these shorter lines to indicate, texture feathers, but I'm assuming that these are really small feathers, so you can't really make out their exact shape. And I'm just gonna leave this video in real time so you can see exactly how long this drawing or sketch is gonna take me. So again, we're going right around this eye and drawing these short lines. Now if you notice, this shape here is more circular, and so the lines aren't necessarily gonna be curved as much as here. Here this is more of a 3/4 view of this shape, and so you'll be able to see more of a curved line, like right here. Right here it was quite curved. Here, because it's more of a straight on view, you're not gonna see as much of a curved line here. I don't know if I'm showing that with my explanation and my drawing, but that's what I'm trying to achieve. So these will be more radial type lines going straight out from, say, the center of the pupil outward. And again, very short lines to indicate texture. And I don't worry about leaving the initial layout lines or showing them, trying to hide them. I'm not going to worry about it. This is a drawing, but it's really kind of like a quick sketch. I'm not going to spend too much time. I'm just trying to show you like a basic technique of how to draw an animal, in this case an owl, and in a sort of realistic fashion using a pencil. So I'm just going to go all the way around the eye. And if I really wanted to make this more realistic, I could, of course, really blend it more using my finger or say a paintbrush or a cotton swab, something like that. Now I'm going to go to the head part here, and I'm starting to add a little bit more pressure on these pencil lines. And the whole idea here is to again show texture of the feathers here, but I'm also showing that the color of the head here is darker. So more lines, more pressure, get darker tones. And I'm roughly going in the direction of what I would think the feathers are laying on the head. So notice here, this is the direction of the lines, whereas here it's going this way more horizontally, but they're all curved. Essentially all curved. Alright, so I'm going to switch over right now to my softer 6B lead here, just to add more contrast amongst the feathers, as well as make it a little bit darker on the right side of the head, just to indicate that perhaps it's more in shadow. And I'm also going to make it a little bit darker right around the eye here, trying to follow the same curved direction that I initially put down. Same here, make this part a little bit darker. Doesn't seem dark enough. Back to my HB lead or 2B lead, and here I'm going to start showing bigger shapes of the feathers simply by putting these kind of like soft check marks to indicate the ends of the feathers. And I'm going to make them a little bit more concentrated here, again for shadow effect. And here underneath the bushy eye shape, I'll make it a little bit darker, And this will also help to set off, give added contrast around the beak. Alright, just like that. And again, I'm using a lot of pressure here. I'm still on my HB lead, and I can get kind of dark tones with it. Now I'm gonna go ahead and give this beak some color just by darkening it. Okay, it's looking better. And I'm gonna extend this shape around the eye, again with short lines. And now I'm gonna start adding some feathers, and these will be just U-shaped lines, and I'm gonna make them randomly sized so not to make it too regular. So here I'm just making it up. It would be too tedious for me to look at every feather of my reference and try to duplicate it. There's just no sense in doing that. Nobody's gonna have the reference picture when they look at this drawing to say that, oh, I didn't draw these feathers exactly the way it was. And that's not what I'm after. So now what I'm gonna do is just add a little bit of color to the ends of these feathers. Again, the darker tones, shadows, will be on the right side of this body. So I'm just gonna make these parts a little bit darker and then lighten up on the pressure as I go to the feathers here on the left. I like to go a little bit faster. I don't particularly have a lot of patience, and I get bored with drawings that just take too long. I just don't care to take too long on any particular drawing. When I watch videos on YouTube and they say that it took them 15 hours, 20 hours to draw something, or even as little as 2 hours, to me that's just too long. I'm just not patient enough to do that. Alright, so now I'm gonna draw some longer feathers here, and these are gonna be much longer, more as far as the length, but I'll still try to vary it some. There'll still be some shorter ones here and there. Notice that as I go to the left here, there's less detail, and as you go to the right, there'll be more in shadow, and I will start to add more detail for those. So here I'm gonna give some color to the feathers by drawing these tilted lines coming off the center part of the feather. So just a couple lines here in the middle, and then from there draw these slanted lines. You can make some a little bit darker than the others, and some of these feathers are gonna cast a little bit of a shadow on the feather that's next to it. And as we get to this side here, I'm just gonna make it kind of dark. Not really able to see so much detail because it's in the shadow, and just keep doing it. As I go towards the left again, because it's like in the lighter areas, I'm gonna really lighten up on my pencil pressure and not put as much detail. Alright, so we're getting to the bigger feathers here at the bottom. And again, we'll just add some slanted lines here, coming off a center section. And this is what I mean by cast shadow. So we've got this feather here above this bigger feather. So right underneath, we'll just make it a little bit darker, still following the shape of that these front feathers, and they're casting the shadow on the lower feather. So same here. And again, these farther feathers that are farther away are gonna be in darker shadows, so I'm just shading that quite a bit. Heavier pressure on the pencil. And finally, the lower part here, we can make these feathers a little bit darker. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and put a solid value at the bottom, and then I'll go ahead and try to separate them some with some lines to indicate some of the feather shapes. And this part here I'm going to make even darker. Alright, so now we've got the tail feathers. Again, I'm just making this part up and keeping it uneven so it's not too regular. Let's just give it some value, some tone. And now I'm going to take my 4B lead again, or 6B lead, and I'm just going to make the outer sections here quite a bit darker and give it more of an outline, just to separate the feather sections a little bit more, and maybe add some darker lines here to separate some of these feathers. And this just gives it more contrast, so it's not so monotonous. As much as I try to separate some of the tones from the lightest to the medium, sometimes you just need to kind of separate them even more with really dark tones, and you get that by using a really soft leaded pencil such as this 6B lead. And now it's looking like I'm outlining it more, which is what I'm doing, making these outer lines really dark. And remember, I'm just keeping the really dark outlines over to the right and bottom part, not so much here, because I want this side to be a little bit lighter. And finally, let's just give a rough indication of its talons here on the branch. And this is where I really kind of make it more sketchy as far as the detail, say, of the branch, where you can really see the pencil lines. And the reason why I do it this way is I don't want it to take up too much attention, take attention away from the bird itself. So I hope you found this video useful. I'm at about 20 minutes of drawing time, and please like, share, and subscribe if you got something out of this, and I will see you next time. Take care and see you. Bye.